Good evening, everybody. It is 6:30 in the evening on August 8th, 2019, and tonight we are going to do the first video of 3 videos on testing the Ollo audio sound. We are going to break it up into 3 parts: bass response, midtones, and then treble. And today we are doing the bass response. Previously, with our headphone review process, we were jumbling all that together, and you know what? It's not going to work. So let's do 3 ways, right? Bass, mids, treble. Now, what does Ollo Audio claim about the S4R, the closed-back version of their headphones? Well, they say it's very flat sound. I mean, you can see this is the chart that they give you on their website. This is what they aim for. They say that it is achieved using acoustics and audio engineering, not a single line of code, just pure analog headphones, whatever that means. These are 50mm dynamic drivers, 20 to 22,000 kilohertz, not 22,000 kilohertz, but 22,000 hertz. So from 20 to 22. Most headphones come from 20 to 20. The extra 2,000 hertz, maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. Impedance is 32 ohms. Okay? Let's get on with this. We are going to test today the Ollo Audio on the THX AAA desktop, which I have attached to my computer. And now you may say, look, why don't you use FLAC files? This is a new PC. And I'm still trying to get software to play FLAC files and try to work it all together. And it's a long story. It's a work in progress. First test that we're going to have is with the song Angel by Massive Attack, because that has a tremendous amount of bass. So let's see how these pair of headphones respond to that bass and sub-bass and that layers of bass. It's just all created bass in computers. Let's see. Here we go. I have the monolith at negative 23 decibels, and it is very loud. I can hear that low rumble. The extra bass drums that come in, they sound very distinct. There's good sound stage. There's cymbals on the left ear cup that just resonate very naturally and then decay. So at the very bottom of this song is this rumble. And on some headphones, that rumble becomes very powerful and, in fact, overpowerful. This pair of headphones is handling it really, really well. It's flat. It's all the way at the bottom. It's not interfering with the other drums that are playing. It's not interfering with the cymbals. And it's a very nice, clean, separate sound. Now, here comes some sort of other instrument. I think it's supposed to be like a wood instrument or a brass instrument of some sort. Brass instrument. Don't say wood. Brass instrument. And I don't really hear any distortion at all. Here comes the vocals. Very well differentiated. The bass is still present, but it's not bleeding into the midtones. I can hear the low rumble, the drums on either side of the ear cup, so left and right, as well as the very subdued cymbal crashes that happen every once in a while. And here comes more drums. So now we have a third layer of drums. It sounds very, very flat, uncolored. It's an interesting experience because with a lot of headphones with this song, everything becomes really muddy and incredibly difficult to listen to and hear the separation. But with the Ollo, I can hear the separation and it's not giving me a headache. And that's the biggest part about this, is that I sit here and I listen to it and all that layers of bass is smooth. It just comes as it was recorded, and the headphone doesn't seem to be adding anything to it. I'm decreasing volume down to negative 50 decibels, and at negative 50 decibels, everything is still quite separated. No muddiness. I'm going to increase to negative 20 decibels. And everything still sounds very crystal clear well separated. Now, in some headphones, the louder you make them, the more harsh the sound becomes. And at negative 20 decibels, this headphone is very, very loud on this song. And I have to say, it doesn't become distorted. It does not become harsh to my ears. Now let's go to something else. Let's go to Drum Solo by Jack Bruce Simon Phillips. At the very beginning of Drum Solo of this song, what happens is that there's a crowd that's yelling and cheering. It's a really terrible way to record a song, to have a song recorded where you have that audience input at the very beginning and it just burns into your ear and it hurts with some headphones. Let's see how the Ollo Audio handles that, whether it distorts, and then moving forward, how the Ollo Audio responds to the drum strikes. Here we go. It sounded pretty flat. I'm going to take the volume up to negative 20 decibels, and I'm going to start again. Yeah, very, very well controlled. Not ear-piercing at all. You can hear the drum just hitting from right ear cup all the way to the left. It starts on the right and goes to the left. That's how the drummer is playing. You can almost hear the bottom dropping out of the drum as the drum head is hit with the drum stick. It's not particularly pronounced. In fact, I would say it's not pronounced. It's very neutral and flat, which is good. That's what you want for mastering headphones. Here we go, starting with the riff. I'm going to increase volume to negative 16 decibels. Very clean, clear, differentiated drum strike. Negative 14 decibels. The cymbal strikes are not ear-piercing at all. Incredible detail, just amazing amounts of detail on this song. You hear the cymbals hitting on the right ear cup. You hear all the other drum strikes. Nothing seems to be muddied. Now, the drum strikes themselves are not particularly powerful. If I were to compare this to, let's say, the XC from Odyssey or the Atticus from ZMF, those two have a very visceral response, But the Ollos don't have that visceral response, which is good for, again, mastering and mixing. You want something that's very neutral. It doesn't have any coloration. So what you get is a good flat response to the bass and no harshness, no muddiness, and no over accentuation to any of the frequencies. So let's go back a little bit, about 1 minute when he starts riffing again. At negative 17.5 decibels, it's a good representation of the drums. It's not a very passionate representation. You don't get reverberation in the ear cups, for example. You don't get the sensation that you're standing right next to the stage and that loudspeaker is just screaming into your ear. That's not the sensation I'm getting. Instead, I'm getting a very crystal clear, undistorted sensation, as if we're in a recording booth and everything is well controlled. Now, loudspeakers are not easy to control. They have their own distortion, and they add coloration to sound often, unless you have some sort of amazing audio engineer who's able to control and you have some amazing loudspeakers. But with these headphones, this sounds more like you're sitting in a recording booth than it does you're sitting in front of the stage and listening. How does that affect the listening experience? Well, it all depends. If you want a passionate reverberation and you want to feel as if you are right there, then this is probably not the type of response you're looking for. In my opinion, what this does is that it gives a much cleaner, more clinical response. Pair that with a more clinical amplifier, right? Like the THX, clinical with clinical, and you get some really amazing clarity. And on top of that, you get differentiation with all the drum hits and strikes. That's what I'm hearing. Now, you may say this is not FLAC, this is not DSD, this is not MQA, this is not the most amazing. I understand. I get it. But look at it in a different way. If I'm able to hear this differentiation with files downloaded from Spotify Premium, then imagine that you could probably hear better difference, if there is any, you can hear better difference on higher resolution files. Doesn't that make sense? If you can hear the details in a lower resolution file, you should be able to hear the details in a higher resolution file. That's part of the reason why I choose Spotify, because almost everybody uses Spotify or Tidal, but most people have Spotify. And not everybody has the capacity to go out and download DSD files, because DSD files are not easily available, and they can be expensive, and they're not available for every song. In fact, they're available for only a fraction of the songs out there. So when you listen to Spotify and you hear the difference, you should be able to hear the difference. Same song, higher resolution. Let's skip to Kodo. Where is Kodo? Where did Kodo go? There it is. And let's go to Lion by Kodo. Let's start. We are at let's bring this up to negative 25 decibels. Here we go. There's this bassy drum, very bassy drum that starts out at the very beginning, and there's singers that go hoo, ha at the very beginning. Very well controlled, very well differentiated. Now here comes the other drums. These are smaller drums. You can hear their faster strikes. They strike and then it moves on. There's no reverberation. There's no lingering of the drum strikes. That lower drum is back. Now it's two layers of drums, the faster drum and the slightly slower drum. And you can hear the difference of reverberation. The faster drum comes and goes. The lower drum just resonates a little bit longer. And when they're playing at the exact same time, you can hear the separation of the two frequencies. Now, I hear at least 3 different types of drums playing. There's a really bassy drum at the very bottom. There's a faster drum at the very top. And then in the middle, there's this other drum that's kind of a middle-sized drum, I guess you could say. And they all have a slightly different tonality. And if you pay attention, you can easily find the separation. Continues to have this clean representation. I'm going to increase the volume to negative 16. Very loud, no distortion. Everything is crystal clean, clear, precise. That when that lower drum comes in right about now, so 1 minute and 50 seconds, it comes in and strikes. You can hear the resonance, but it doesn't seem to interfere with any of the other frequencies in this song. That's a very nice, clean, precise, fast and slow and methodical representation. It's really hard to, in my opinion, it's really hard to create a pair of headphones that is able to handle multiple different frequencies at the same time and present them unmuddied. And I tell you now, as far as the bass is concerned, it seems to me that that's exactly what these headphones are doing. I hear no muddiness. I hear no defragmentation of the frequency. So in other words, one frequency doesn't bleed into another and cut it off. It seems well separated amongst all the bass frequencies here. That's really nice to hear. Let's go to Irodori by Kodo. And this one starts off with a really bassy drum that has a reverberation. But the headphones, the ear cups, do not reverberate. You could hear the reverberation as it echoes away. And now as it gets louder, you hear other drums. And there's a flute, several flutes that are playing. Clear differentiation. The bass does not seem to impact the flute frequency at all. I hear at least 2 different types of drums playing. And around 44 seconds, let's go back real quick. It's around 44 seconds. The bigger drum comes in again, and it just has a slightly harder hit, harder strike. And you can hear, with that harder strike, you can hear a change in the tonality. It just lingers just a slightly bit longer than it had been just a moment before because the drummers hit it a little bit harder. Let's go back. I'm going to start at about 35 seconds, and I'll tell you if there is, in fact, a difference. Yeah. When they start hitting that lower drum a little bit harder, I hear the difference in the tonality. It becomes a little bit more present. It becomes a little bit more resonant inside the song. Now, when I say inside the song, I mean this. These headphones, the ear cups, do not reverberate. If you've ever listened to a Denon D2000, those headphones will reverberate. They were created for bass. If you've ever listened to the Monoprice Retro, those headphones will reverberate if you have a pad change. Even with the pad change, they will reverberate a little bit. The Atticus will have a slight bit of reverberation, but they're so heavy and they're made of wood that sometimes you miss it. There are headphones that have that reverberation characteristic in the headphone, the ear cups. Sometimes it's enjoyable, sometimes it's not. These headphones have no reverberation at all in any of the songs that we've played so far. The reason that might be a good thing is because if there is no reverberation, there's also no distortion. That's how I look at it. Let's go back to the test playlist. And let us listen to, where is it? Let's listen to Superposition, because that does have drums. We're not listening to the vocals, we're not listening to the guitar, we're listening just for the drum. And what I want to know is, does the drum strike interfere with any of the other frequencies? Here we go. Very clean, precise drum hit. Okay, so here's something really cool. At negative 22 decibels, when I start the song, the drum immediately starts. And it's clean. It's crystal clean. I hear no distortion whatsoever. It's fast. It hits, moves on, hits, moves on, hits, moves on. Then you have, I think it's a banjo. It's a string instrument of some sort. It sounds like a banjo. And it's not being distorted at all. You have a very different separation, a very different tonality. It's really nice, and it's clean and crystal clean. I keep focusing on that terminology, crystal clean, but it is absolutely essential that you hear it over and over again. For a mixing or mastering headphone, clarity is king. You have to have clarity. You must have it. And if there is distortion, if there is unneeded reverberation, if there is a muddiness, those headphones are not good for mixing and mastering, right? Because they don't do what they're marketed to do. But the Ollo Audio, strangely enough, or good enough, wonderfully enough, they don't have a distortion. So let's start again from the beginning, and I'll listen for 30 seconds. There's a bass guitar that's playing in the background. That's layer 2. So layer 1 is the drum. Layer 2 is the bass guitar. Layer 3 is this other guitar, or it's a banjo or something. Layer 4 is the vocal. And everything is separated. Everything is separated. Not a single note muddied that I can tell. That is really refreshing to hear, not from a pair of headphones, but from a pair of headphones marketed as mixing and mastering headphones. That's what I mean. It seems to actually do what the Ollo Audio claims about clarity and separation, all that stuff. You know, mixing and mastering sort of thing. I'm fairly bolstered by this, meaning I'm pleased to have this experience with these headphones. And let's do one more. Let's do Moons by MB. Now, Moons by MB, I think Joshua Velour actually uses a portion of this song in his intro. It's a fun fact, if it is one. And let's listen to it because it's got some low rumbly bass. Here we go. We're at negative 22 decibels. When you start off, there's this electronic buzzing in the background. And then a higher pitched distortion that comes in, that's recorded in the song. And then here's the drums. No distortion at all. So the thing about this song is that when the drums come in, it's an extremely processed song. I would say it's like the same type of processing that Angel by Massive Attack has. The drums themselves have a lot of electronic mumbo jumbo that's being mixed into it, and there's purposeful distortion, electronic distortion that's mixed into the song. When these drums hit on this song, I don't hear a heaviness to them. It's not distorting. It's not muddy with the rest of the frequency range. It sounds fairly clean and neutral. We're at negative 25 decibels now. And you can still hear that, like this low rumbly thing at the very, very background. The drums themselves have stopped, but there's this low rumble in the back. While the electronic, is it an electronic piano or something is playing. And you can hear the slight electronic buzz that comes in every once in a while. It's a neat micro detail. And I've missed it on many other headphones, but on this one, I can hear it. And it's at the very top. There's a verticality here, and it's at the very top of the headphones. Like it's on the top of my head where this buzzing is coming from. Again, it's very imperceptible unless you listen for it. That bass that's coming in is just low rumble bass that's just not interfere with anything else. And at this point, those drums come in again, the electronic mumbo jumbo drums. This is the portion of the song, by the way, that Joshua Velour, I think, uses in his intro. It's coming up in about 5 seconds. Right here. Yeah, clear differentiation. Still no muddiness. So here's what happens. Let's go back to about 233. What happens is that there's I think a dun dun dun. There's a triple hit, dun dun dun, and then a brief respite. So there's no drum, and then boom, there's that reverberating, heavy-handed drum that comes in. That's really mastered, and it's mixed with some distortion, and it just sounds meaty, and just it grabs you. When the 3 dum-dum-dums come in, a very brief nothing, and then that rumbly drum comes in. Clear separation, no muddiness. The frequency is fast, it's precise. It's very interesting. So let's try it again, starting at 233. And the dum-dum-dum is about to start now. And then, that other drum just comes in. The hesitation, what happens is that the dun-dun-dun, it could be a cymbal, but because the song is just so processed, I can't really tell. Once those 3 dun-dun-dun hits, the third dun is already hit, and there's a slight reverberation, and then right then and there, that bigger bass drum comes in. And you can hear that bassiness behind it. But there's no interference, there's no muddiness, there's no weirdness going on with the song. It's very clean. Okay. There we go. 25 minutes. 25 minutes, and I have hopefully described to you the bass response for this pair of headphones. Now, once again, shorter videos means less that I can do, but that's okay. Here we are. What do I think about the bass response for the Ollo Audio? Man, it's clean. It's good soundstage. I seem to hear some verticality. There's good separation, excellent separation of the bass instruments. When there's a lot of bass coming in, like with Kodo, when there's multiple instruments, including a drum, like in Superposition, when it's really processed bass like Moons or Angel, none of it gets distorted. And that is a phenomenal experience to have for somebody who's looking for mixing and mastering headphones. Close back. That it gives you that bass, clean bass. Now, these are not impactful bass headphones. If you're looking for something that's visceral, that's in your ear, that's just going to kill your eardrums with bass and drum strikes, this is not the headphone for you unless you take it up like to insane volumes. Then perhaps it'll get to that point. But at comfortable listening volume and at least my maximum listening volume, which came up to about negative 16 decibels, negative 15 decibels, it doesn't become visceral. Not in the same respect that the XC, the Atticus are visceral, in my opinion. Hopefully this has been of some help. Next time we are going to we're going to test the Ollo Audio's mid-range, the vocals. And then after that, we're going to switch to the higher frequencies, pianos, and other things that brass instruments, and see how those respond. Then finally, we are going to compare the Ollo Audio with the NDH20s. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday evening. Friday is around the corner. Then you have the weekend, and you're going to have a fantastic time. I hope you have a wonderful night. And by the way, before I go, if you haven't made a request for a review yet, please think about making a request. I'm happy to entertain any requests. I'm happy to do any requests that you have within reason. And you can go on the Google Doc that's linked in the comments below or the description below and to get access to that request form. Okay, that's all I got. Have a wonderful night.